The NBA playoffs are actually heating up, and I mean that literally. The Cavs swept the Hawks and looked terrifying. The Warriors did not sweep the Portland Trail Blazers. Game 4 is tonight. We're shooting this on Monday morning in Portland again. Maybe Damian Lillard goes off for 40 points. Actually, the amount of players that are going off for 40 points in the playoffs, real quick. You got Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant with 41 last night, which again, how the game plan is not pass the ball to Kevin Durant in the fourth quarter every single time is insane to me. Not every time, but seriously, it's athleticism versus execution. And it's kind of like a unstoppable force meeting an immovable object because the Spurs' execution is so good and the Thunder's athleticism is so unbelievable that Westbrook and Durant, yes, they can take this series to 7 games. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, though, because I don't think they're going to beat the Spurs again on their home court.
Yeah,
okay, let's go to the bracket, Francis. Let's take a look at how everyone's doing in the NBA playoffs. So the Cavs, as we mentioned, dismantled the Hawks. I know some of those games were like 1 or 2 point games. If you're watching closely, the Cavs destroyed them. And what happened to Kyle Korver? The Raptors and the Heat, Kyle Lowry decided to just show up on Saturday when I put up my clip on why they're the worst shooting backcourt ever. But that's important because, again, if Kyle Lowry did that every game, every single game, Heater gone. Heat would have been swept. Spurs and Thunder, we mentioned 2-2, and the Warriors and the Blazers at 2-1. Francis, thoughts overall?
You used the perfect word for Cleveland. They are petrifying. They are moving now at the pace that we all knew they could get to, but no one really panicked. Did they panic when it came to in the regular season when they weren't playing as well with each other? No, because as we keep saying, it's all about how you're performing moving into that final game. But I did want to touch on some interesting points that you brought up, and I read the articles about it, talking basically people making excuses for how Cleveland are having such an easy run into the finals. Well, the way your system's set up, what's the point in complaining? You set it up so that it's East versus East and it's West versus West. Yes, I'm a foreigner who likes and is used to just tournaments where the seeding is based on an overall outlook. So you might get 2 people from the same side playing against each other. You might get 2 teams from Spain playing each other versus 2 teams from Italy. But it's just the luck of the draw. And the best teams will emerge victorious no matter who they play against. So that's why I just don't get the complaints. Like, the way your system is set up, you set up that system, so there's no right to complain. I think last season it was more evident that Cleveland had an easier run to the finals. I didn't think any team was on par with them. This season, Atlanta have looked good. The Cleveland Cavaliers are just much better. Do you think the Rockets wouldn't even get by the first round in the East if they come up against a tough opponent? They're not. It's not like the West is so stacked that it's unfair to say that any of the other teams wouldn't be able to put up a good run. So it's the way your system has worked here, the way it's the East versus the East and the West versus the West. No complaints necessary. Cleveland will deserve to get to the finals no matter how they get there. So it's interesting.
It's been a top-heavy league since the beginning of the season. We kind of knew that going in, that it was going to be dominated by the Cavs, the Thunder, the Warriors. We didn't think the Warriors would be this good. We didn't know the Spurs would be this good, at least record-wise. By the way, fun fact about the Spurs, any team who has won 65 games in the regular season and is in a 2-2 series is 15-0 going through games 5, 6, and 7. Usually those games don't even make it to 7. So the Spurs kind of have the advantage with history on their side. But again, that might be the most watchable series we have right now.
Undoubtedly.
Even with the Warriors and their backs against the wall, because no Curry for tonight, and Curry doubtful still for Game 5. And there will be a Game 5 because the Blazers took one on their home court. But the Spurs and the Thunder, if the Thunder upset the Spurs in 6 or 7 games, I don't think that Durant or Westbrook or Billy Donovan doesn't deserve too much credit. I don't think they're going to get enough of it. Because we've slept on the Spurs the entire year, not just us, every media outlet literally looks at the Spurs and goes, well, they didn't do what the Warriors did. When in reality, according to almost every single analytic, they were equally as good minus just a handful of wins to set a record. So keep your eye on Durant and Westbrook because, again, come Game 6, depending on where they are at the series, that will very well be Kevin Durant's last game in Oklahoma City. And that's going to be a fun scene to see. And the fans were great towards him. Absolutely awesome as they rally around that team for one last time because they might be atrocious for a few years without those guys. But I want to go back to the Steph Curry real quick because he won his back-to-back MVP awards, which has only been done by
deserved.
two other point guards, Irvin Magic Johnson and Steve Nash, although Steve Nash deserved one of them, but it's whatever. It's in the history books. It's fine. Enough with the Warriors being lucky, to play off your point on the Cavs being lucky, with this Eastern Conference being garbage and this Western Conference being the holier-than-thou greatest thing that's ever been given to us. No, the Hawks and the Rockets are both teams that pretty much wash each other out. I'm going to say the Hawks are better than the Rockets. The Cavs made a mockery of Atlanta. In Atlanta, too. They are playing like the Warriors are playing in the beginning of the season. Do you know how much fun the Warriors were having when they were beating teams, when it was midway through the third quarter and the score was 88-44? That's a real score. It came against the Pistons. Okay? Do you know how much fun they were having knocking down 3 after 3 after 3? And this isn't just J.R. Smith getting hot from 3. This is Kevin Love dominating mismatches and popping out to the three-point line. This is Kyrie Irving being a scorer. I would absolutely fear the Cavaliers, more so right now than I would fear the Spurs or I'd feel the Thunder. Because, again, experience-wise, top to bottom, experience-wise, top to bottom, the Spurs have the most experience because Tim Duncan has played in 249 postseason games. So when you compare it to that, it's not exactly as fair. But enough with the luckiness, because if you're going to really tell me that the Warriors are a lucky basketball team, that they didn't have to face the Los Angeles Clippers without Chris Paul, because they didn't have Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, and that they didn't have to face the top-tier talent, they lost their MVP. Take LeBron off the Cavs. You're done. Not a chance. Kyrie and Kevin Love can only take you so far. Take Kawhi off the San Antonio Spurs. I know
LaMarcus at the moment.
LaMarcus at the moment for scoring. I think Kawhi has a bigger impact on both ends of the floor, and that's why it would be such a devastating blow. You take Steph Curry off the Warriors, you lost your MVP. You lost the best player in the league right now. And they're still finding ways to win the series. They're still finding ways to win on their home court. Enough with the luckiness. You play who's in front of you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're lucky. You play it's not the Warriors' fault that Chris Paul got injured. It's not the Warriors' fault that the Rockets shot themselves in the foot 16 times this season.
It's not the Warriors' fault last year that the Cavs had injuries as well. It's what happens when you have such a long season.
Yeah.
Like, you got to play quite literally who's in front of you. I did want to go back to what you were talking about with the OKC and the Spurs. Undoubtedly, it's the game I'm looking for every day. It's the one I look forward to. I have it in my calendar. And it's so refreshing to see Kevin Durant be given those opportunities in the fourth quarter. Like, I think he's leading on average points per game at the moment out of both teams. I think LaMarcus is 22. I think he is 26.8, if I am right. I think so. And it's because he's given those opportunities. And you said there as well, athleticism of Russell Westbrook is mind-numbing at times. He is fantastic at driving to the basketball hoop. And he's fantastic at taking, I would say, hard shots and making them look easy. But it almost seems like they've finally realized that when we draw up plays, that people still expect Russell Westbrook to take that shot. And what happens if you get him looking to utilize his other players and utilize Kevin Durant more so, is you find that Kevin Durant is far more reliable in those situations.
Yeah.
I know that seems like, oh, that's obvious, no doubt, Kevin Durant. But it's not that obvious to the OKC because they've been doing it throughout this season where Russell Westbrook coming down, even just at the end of the half, you still always give the ball to Russell Westbrook and you wait for him to try and take a shot. And most of the time, Russell Westbrook is reliable in those situations. But when it comes to a series against such a dominant team and against a consistent team, there's no other player I want the ball going to. Whether the opponent knows it's coming or not, just give it to Kevin Durant because I feel like no matter what, he's going to have a better shot selection. He's going to give you a better chance of converting, and it seems like that's more evident now, especially in the fourth quarter, and that's why I think they're thriving.
I mean, you can make the argument. There's a great argument that who you want to take the last shot in a basketball game, given the NBA players that are available right now. You can make the argument that over Steph, probably definitely over LeBron at times, even though he was clutch, I'd give the ball to Damian Lillard or Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
They want that shot. It's what Kobe preached. You need to want that shot. You need to take that shot. Mm-hmm. And that's what it comes down to. Russell Westbrook hasn't proven that just yet. Kevin Durant has done it for the past 7-8 years. Lastly, Dwayne Wade, shoot around, missed the first 8 seconds of O Canada, which, yes, is a disrespectful act. Does not make Dwayne Wade a disrespectful person altogether. Shooters, and in general, almost every NBA player, and this transcends to all sports, have what they call their routines, their pregame routine. And in Dwayne Wade's head, he is not allowed to stop or end his pregame routine on a missed shot. Every single game, day after day, since he came into the league, since he played at Marquette, his idiosyncratic motions that he has to go through. Oh, Canada started. 8 seconds into it, he hit his last shot, and then he stood by the foul line and put his arms behind his back and gave the respect to it. Canada's pissed at him. They have the right to be pissed. Dwayne Wade's response was, well, if you think Dwayne Wade's disrespectful, you don't know Dwayne Wade. Okay. You don't need to be cryptic. A simple, my bad, I have my routine, I needed to finish it, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, would have sufficed. So disrespectful act, not disrespectful person. Canada, don't be that man, but if it gives you more fuel to just want your team to beat the Heat, by all means, take it. All right, comment below with what you think about Curry winning the MVP, the Thunder and the Spurs being 2-2, the Cavs destroying the Hawks, the Toronto Raptors and Miami Heat being 2-1, and the Blazers Warriors at 2-1. Will be 2 games tonight. We'll be back later this week with more NBA playoffs. Comment below, like, favorite, subscribe, at Francis_Maxwell, at JasonRuben91, at TYT Sports, Facebook.com/TYT Sports. We're also unwatchable.
Wow.